Hello everyone, welcome back to Foiling Friday. This is Kari from sunshineinmypocket.com. We are going to have a really great time tonight because we're going to be talking about foiling with your alcohol inks. And I have so much to show you today. We're going to have a really great time today. We're going to talk about supplies and papers, how to add foil to your alcohol ink backgrounds. We're going to talk about common mistakes, how to fix them, and we're going to make some simple cards so you can get an idea of how to use your panels and what to do with them, because a lot of people asked me about what to do with their panels. And then of course I'm going to answer a lot of questions throughout this video, and at the end I'm getting some of my supplies ready here, and I'm cutting some smaller pieces of foil. This foil that I'm using right here is the DecoFoil champagne foil, and it is beautiful. It's not quite gold, it's not really rose gold, it's like a softer gold, and I love it. I also have some Sunrise Lake foil here. That's the Maker Forte foil, which is gorgeous. I've got a new foil to show you today too, so I'm so excited about that. And I'm going to be using a variety of tools today. This here is the Distress Marker Spritzer, which is kind of like a puffer. They have a new puffer now from Holtz that you can also use, but I had this and it works great for me. So I just continue to use it. I also have a bunch of colors of the alcohol inks, and in this little bottle I have put some 91% isopropyl alcohol. For these techniques I found that isopropyl alcohol works really great. I'm also going to show you the difference when you're using blending solution. But I love having the isopropyl alcohol in this small little bottle here because it gives me more control of how much I put down and where it goes on my panel. Now for this one, I'm just testing out some colors together. This is the gorgeous patina color, and also I have here the espresso color. It could also be teak wood. I am not sure. I got both of those at the same time and I was testing them out. If you're interested on how I like to swatch out my colors for easy reference, head on over to my channel where I share that. I would have shared everything here, but you guys, this video was edited down from 4 hours worth of content. So to get it all in our class time frame of under an hour, I couldn't share all of the things. But what I'm trying to show you here is that what you want to get for foiling is you want to get some of those darker areas so you can add the foil. And what happens to this alcohol ink is that it doesn't dry nearly as much in those areas. It remains sticky, and so you're able to add the foil. So on that small little sample there, it dried way too fast for me to show you how to do that foiling. So we're going to use a larger sheet of paper, and I like doing my alcohol ink on larger sheets because of a lot of reasons, and I'm going to show you throughout this video why. But one of the reasons is you have more space, you have more dry time, and more time to add that foil. So we're starting with the Geminio paper from Maker Forte, and you notice that I put the drops down first before I added the alcohol. We are using the shiny side, by the way, of this paper. There are two sides to the Geminio paper, and for this one it did keep those dots of alcohol on the spots where I dropped them first because it didn't have any liquid to spread out on, so it kind of absorbed into the paper very quickly. For this reason, I found that I like to add that isopropyl alcohol first, as you see me do here, and then add some drops of alcohol ink and then spread it around a little bit with this tool. You could also use that new one from Holtz. There are a lot of things you could use. I have seen a lot of people do a lot of different things. This one works great for me, but I also have another tool that's my favorite right now, and I'm going to show you that too. So for this piece, you're going to see I'm just going to keep working it. And a lot of times I spend more time trying to figure out where I want more color and just adding more things. This one is the espresso. I've got the patina in there and some mermaid because I love that mermaid color. And this is taking a lot longer to dry because we have more surface area now. Some of it is still sticky, and you're going to see, look at that, I got some on my finger. If you don't like getting this ink on your finger, definitely wear gloves. I was all out of gloves. I've gone through my gloves. But one thing that you can use is hand sanitizer. And let me mention right now also, I like working on my glass mat for this because it's so easy to clean up the alcohol ink off that glass mat. You can see there it was still wet. It stuck to my foil. The back of my foil got some alcohol ink on it. That's okay. It's still usable. So I'm just waiting for that perfect time between when it's almost all the way dry and still a little bit tacky to add the foil. And you're going to see here that a lot of times it happens pretty quickly, faster than you expect. And so here I am trying to add some more foil. You're going to see on this one, some of it dried faster than others, and I find that some of the inks do dry faster than others. It's hard to know exactly when it's going to be ready. You just have to watch it. And I kept this one pretty close to real time. So I did wait for, I don't know, maybe 60 seconds or so. I started adding some foil and you're going to see only little bits of it come off on this one. Now keep in mind that I used the glossy side of the Geminio paper, and later on I'm going to use the other side of the Geminio paper. So you can see here there are a few small pieces of foil, not as much as I like, but don't give up because I'm going to show you some tricks and some things to do when you don't get a lot of foil and you want to fix it. But let's move on to this paper right here. This is more like a plastic paper, kind of like a Yupo paper, but it's not Yupo brand. This is a cheaper brand. And I'll show you those closer to the end as well of the different kinds I'm using. I'm trying the alcohol blending solution now in this one, just to see if it lasts a little bit longer or the ink responds differently. These colors I'm using are Stream and Patina this time. And with that blending solution, you'll see that it does help it to spread out even more. It really does blend. I didn't find as really that big of a difference between the isopropyl and the blending solution though. And the isopropyl alcohol is a lot cheaper. So I tend to do that, and I like to use my blending solution when I'm using pearls or the other alloys or things like that, which we're not going to get into today. But the reason I like to do that is because the blending solution has a resin in it, which helps those to move and to stay stuck to your paper. So there is a reason for that. And for that reason, you also never want to put blending solution in a spray bottle of any kind because you don't want that resin to be released into the air. And I should also mention, make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area. I have 2 fans on and my air purifier going in my craft room right now while I'm working on these alcohol inks. The takeaways from this one: the blending solution and the alcohol work very similarly with regular alcohol inks. I didn't find a lot of extra time really for the foiling. And you can see here that I really got very little foil to stick to this particular panel. So here is one way to fix that, and that is to keep adding some alcohol ink. We want to keep on going, make the alcohol puddles a little bit thicker, a little more tacky, and that's going to really help when you're adding your foil. So that's what I'm doing here, trying to get these inks to blend just a little more. I'm just adding more and more. Now, when I do alcohol ink panels, like I said before, sometimes I take a long time and I decide I like that, I don't like that, I want to add more, I want to take some of this away. The nice thing about alcohol inks is they are very forgiving. Look, you can see some of that pooling up there in the center now. That darker area is going to be tacky. So I've waited for it to be a little bit dry, so I'm not pulling up the ink, but I want this to stick down, and look, that is not dry yet. This may happen to you a few times, but don't worry. It happens to all of us. Every paper also is a little bit different in how fast it dries and when the actual time is to add the foil. So we're not going to give up. So let me just tell you that there are more ways to keep on going. So I'm going to share those as well. And I want to know if any of you have tried this and tried to add foil to your alcohol inks and what you found is your best strategy. As I keep on going, I'm going to share some more of my strategies and some things that I'm in love with right now as well. So now I'm going to start in with some flamingo, and I think this is also fiesta. These are some really bright, vibrant pinks and corals, and they're really, really fun. From here on out, I'm going to stick to the isopropyl alcohol mostly. I love this small bottle for adding that alcohol, and look how beautiful I can get those to move on this plastic paper. So I'll keep working this, and you can see that, yeah, I do. Most of my alcohol ink artwork that I do takes me over an hour. So obviously that's longer than we have today. So I'm trying to hold it back. I'm trying to hold back here. But look at how pretty these colors are together. And here we are again. I'm just waiting for the tacky to come through so that I can add that foil. Now this one worked out a lot better. I'm using the Maker Forte Sunrise Lake foil for this one. And just wait. It's hard to see on the video right now. I will hold this up. I get some really great results with this foil and this ink and this paper combination together. So as I say, don't give up. Look at that big, beautiful piece of foil I got there. We're going to keep working this a little bit because I find that I can still add foil even more. And there's a few tacky spots there, and we're getting some really beautiful designs too because of this foil design. So look at that. Some pretty, pretty results here. Still not where I want it to be though. So here's some Yupo paper I'm going to be working on next. We've got some regular white cardstock alcohol ink Yupo. Then I have the translucent sheets here. And I also have the silver, the brush silver alcohol ink cardstock. So we're going to try some of those and see what kind of results we get there as well. We'll start in with this Yupo paper. I love that these are 5x7 because, as I mentioned, I like working on the larger areas and cutting them down. And here I'm using some sanitizer to clean my glass. And the alcohol ink comes off really great with hand sanitizer. Came off my fingers as well. And so just keep a little bit of that nearby. For this one, I'm starting off with some bottle. I think this is bottle. Could also be Everglades as I'm looking at my samples here. Such a pretty, pretty green. I love this color for like a Christmas card. So pretty. I'm going to also add some of my favorite blues in there with some aquamarine or glacier. So pretty. So use the colors you have and see what works together. But I think this moody blue and this darker green is such a pretty combination. I'm getting some really fun cells for this one. So the Yupo paper is really fun to work on. I do enjoy it. See those cells there? And then also just try some different techniques. This was still a little bit wet, so I'm going to have to add a little more alcohol and alcohol ink to fix that spot that I just smushed. That looks like a darker blue right there. That might be Monsoon, which is another one of my favorites. We're going to work this through and see what kind of results we get there. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, and here we are. And it is ready to add that foil. So I'm getting some really small pieces of foil here, some very fine veining, which I love the look of fine veining as well. Sometimes I want a larger look, and sometimes that smaller veining is just perfect. You can see the back of this is getting a little bit crazy, And just keep in mind that when you have some alcohol ink on the back of your foil, it is going to react with any alcohol inks that you have on your paper. So if you have some reds, for example, which I do have on that other side of the sheet or down below, you definitely don't want to use that on your blues and greens because that's going to come through. But look at this. This might be one of my favorite results. And I will cut that down for a card, so we'll see how that works out. Here's the translucent Yupo now. This is gorgeous. It is a little bit see-through. Not fully, like you can't really see the lines coming through on my glass mat there. But when you alcohol ink over this, you get kind of a see-through dreamy look. It's really, really fun. So I'm going to use some of those blues and browns again and see what we can get with this one. Trying to get it to look a little more dreamy as well with that translucent, just playing along with that. So I'll add a few drops of ink, which is what I usually like to do, is add the isopropyl alcohol, then a few drops, then let that kind of move around and then blend it through with my blending or my puffer tool, which is really my distress ink spritzer. But this is a really pretty color. I think this is the teak wood, if I'm remembering correctly. And of course you can get different fun looks just by the way you apply that alcohol ink. So here I'm just adding some drops and look how pretty that is. It's turning into kind of looking like malachite, I think, in the blues and the greens. And then I'll blend that through. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit and let's go to the foiling part. So I got a real fun moody look here, which is giving me ideas for another card. And I'm going to make that in a little while. But first we're going to add some foil to this. There are parts that are still wet and parts that are tacky, so I'm just pressing my luck here. See what we can get. And I do get a little bit of a result down there on the brown part. I'm starting to get some beautiful looks right in here in the middle where there's a lot of that dark ink kind of pulling together. It's becoming tacky, and I just love those beautiful veins. Really, really pretty. So look at that. I didn't get as much as a result on the brown part because I think I made that a little too thin and allowed it to dry a little bit longer. So I'm still going to try just a little bit in here. I got a few more pieces of foil to stick right there. I love it. Now this can be cut down again to your favorite part of the panel to be used for a card. So that's why I love that. You have lots of options here. Look at that. Yeah, so I keep getting more and more tacky parts, and look, really pretty with that gold. Now you can use other colors of foil other than gold or champagne. Of course, that's my favorite to use on these panels, but I'm also going to use some other colors in a minute. So let's go back to that one where I couldn't get any foil to stick, and I said we'll just keep adding some ink. So that's what we're going to do now. I had to let that sit aside for a little while and let it think about why it wasn't cooperating with me. But let's see if we can get it to cooperate now. I'm going to add some more inks, some more isopropyl here, blend that around, and let's see what happens. So I skipped ahead to the part where it was ready for the foil, and I'm adding some foil here, and I'm starting to get more results, especially on the parts where I added more of that alcohol ink. And there you can see that that is one way to fix your panels if they are not cooperating with you. Just try again. So there you go, and look at that. We're getting some really fun foil right in there. There's that result there. And that again can be cut down for a card. So now let's go in with the brushed silver. The brushed silver, I wanted to show you this. I kept this in because, oh my goodness, that silver in the background that comes through, it really makes this shine. And I knew we had to make a rainbow on our panel. So the colors I'm using here are Wild Plum, Ember, Dandelion, Clover, Aquamarine, and Boysenberry. These are some beautiful rainbow colors. Of course, you can use any of the colors you have in the rainbow. These are just the ones that are some of my favorites for making rainbows with alcohol inks. So you can see what I'm doing here is just adding a line of the isopropyl alcohol, and then I add a few drops along that line and then use my tool to blend that out just a bit. Now I will go back in on some of these that didn't blend perfectly, but look how fun this is to do on this brushed silver paper. It's really, really pretty. If you need to add some more alcohol ink, you can certainly do that and give it a little more color. I do like that silver to show through though. And what I'm hoping is that I can do this fast enough to be able to add some foil. A spoiler alert, it didn't work as well as I wanted it to. I had to take a little extra time to add the inks that it dried most of the spots before I could add the foil. So here you see I'm stopping and seeing if it's dry enough, and it was not dry enough yet to add foil. So I'm going to carry on, keep going through that rainbow. Here we go with the clover right here. And this one really blends so pretty with the yellow and then also the blue and the blue and the purple. Wait till you see the color that that creates when they blend together. So some of these are just gorgeous, especially on that silver paper. I wish this video showed the glitter and the glossiness and the shine of the silver a little better. But that is one of the things about video. It doesn't necessarily always look as good as it does in person. Here's the blue with that aquamarine. So pretty. That's a much brighter blue, but look at what color it makes when you combine it with that clover. And then watch this. This is the boysenberry, and it's a very strong purple. I might have added a little bit too many drops of this. I'm going to move this up so you can see. I might have been able to get away with a little bit less because watch this. So bright. But combine that with the blue and you get a really dark, stormy, purpley blue color. Wow. It's really, really fun. So my thought process on this was, because it's on that silver paper, why not use that Moonlit Lake foil from Maker Forte that is gorgeous and have some of the silver idea shining through. So you'll see I got some good results down here, but it didn't want to work all the way through this rainbow. But I still love how this turned out because of that paper. I know you're looking at my hot pink and saying I need to add a little more up there. I will. In fact, let's do that right now. It needs a little bit there in the corner, so I'm going to fix that right there. Sorry for my hand getting in the way, but look at that. So let me show you how this one turned out. I kept trying to add a little bit of that silver so you can see I got some really beautiful parts of that and some that were just a little bit. But on that silver paper, it is so beautiful. Now here's the plastic paper I was telling you about that I used earlier. I had it cut down before, but now I'm going to use it on a really large sheet of paper. This is 9 by 12, so it's really large. It can be cut down to 4 different cards, and that's another reason I love making these on the larger ones. I have this tool here it's for your hair. But it works really well with alcohol inks because there's a cool setting that allows you to blow that ink around and get some really gorgeous, wispy, dreamy looks. And this is what I am obsessed with right now. So this is how I make a lot of my alcohol ink backgrounds and alcohol ink artwork. I am trying not to get my hand in the way here. When I use this normally, I go right over the top around the alcohol ink, and I'm trying to do this at an angle so you can see what I'm doing, but it's not working out really great because of my camera angle, which is right over the top of me right here. So I need to fix my camera setup so you can see how this works, but just so you get an idea, I'm trying to kind of do this at an angle. It does make for a little bit of a tricky situation here, because normally I go right over the top at a 90-degree angle. But we're going to do our best just so you can see how this turns out. So this is the boysenberry again, and I'm going to pair that with moss alcohol ink, which is a gorgeous light green, kind of a desaturated green. And I think it looks really, really beautiful with the boysenberry. And for this, one of the questions I got was, can you add foil to an alcohol ink piece that you do with the hair tool, just like this, on a cool setting? So what I'm testing out right now is to see if we're able to add that foil. And the answer is yes, absolutely. You just don't want to dry it as much as you normally would. You want to leave that a little bit wet and allow it to dry a touch on its own, so you still get some of those tacky spots and you're able to stick the foil down. Now, if you dry this all the way like I normally would when I'm creating a piece like this, then it will not stick to the foil. Here's a couple other foils I have to share with you. I have the Plum and pink Melon, so I thought we would switch it up a little bit, use some of these different colors of foil, and see what kind of looks we can get with this. One thing I also wanted to mention was with this plastic paper that you could clean up any mistakes you made. Look at this green blob I got on the top there. Look how it just wipes away with some extra alcohol and scrub that away. Look, I didn't like that piece right there, so I'm just going to clean that up a little bit and redo it with some more alcohol and some more isopropyl or alcohol ink and isopropyl alcohol. So I'm adding some of the pink melon in here. It's going to be a different look, but it's really fun. And the sky is the limit, or at least the colors of foil you have is the limit. You can use whatever you want. And so the foil color looks really fun. Different colors with different colors of alcohol ink. It's really fun to experiment on. So I'm just adding a little bit here, and you can see that I still had some good results with the foiling and doing the alcohol ink this way as well. Now down here with the moss color of alcohol ink, I thought that Moonlit Lake foil looked so beautiful. So I'm going to add a little bit of that here. And just wait till you see we cut these panels down. I'm leaving a lot of white space because that's going to dictate how it looks on my card panel. I'll show you in just a minute what I mean by that. So just finishing up the foiling, there's our piece. It's a really fun look. Nice and wispy. You can continue to work it like I usually do for long periods of time. And look at that. I got some of that pink ink from the foil on my artwork here. But as I mentioned, you can just clean it right up, add a little more alcohol, dab that up just a bit, and then carry on with some new alcohol, ink, and alcohol. This is something I would continue to work on, but in the interest of time and for our class, I am going to stop right here and just cut these panels down to show you what a beautiful card panel these are going to make. So I'm going to cut this down. Well, of course I had to try to add more foil. Have I mentioned that I love foil? And then I'll cut them down and show you just how pretty these are. So see how we still have some white space. We have some really great colors here to work with on our cards. I'm making these just a little smaller than a normal card panel. So just cutting these down on each side. And I love having some extra white space, especially for cards. It allows you to add some sentiments and some different items that you want. This is a little bit reminding me of grape jelly. Is anyone getting a grape jelly vibe? So there we go. There's our panels. Look at how gorgeous these are. Really fun colors. I love that we got one that was just purple and one that was just the moss color. So there's some really great foil on all of these too. Lots of little bits of foil, different colors with that pink melon there. You can see how it plays off the boysenberry. Really, really fun and fun to do. So I encourage you to do some larger pieces that you don't expect and see how they turn out for your cards. For this one, I am going to show you some other alternatives as well. We're going to start with some brighter colors again. I can't get enough of these hot pinks, and I wanted to show you that this also works on your smaller panels if you wanted to use the same method. It works great on the Geminio paper as well. This possibly could be the other side of that Geminio paper. There's one side of the Geminio paper that reminds me of more of Yupo paper. It's more of that plastic feel. And then one side that's more glossy that reminds me kind of photo paper. So depending on what look you want to get, that's the side you're going to want to use for your card panel. I love having the option, as long as you know what your tools will do for you and the different looks you can get, you're going to love working with these papers. Now, I could not get a good foil result on this one, so here's your another option for you. You can use the DecoFoil pen or any other pen you have that dries tacky. This one here is a chisel tip, so I thought I could use this and get a smaller line because I just like a real fine line of foil. Makes it look a little more like you meant to do it like that. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, I didn't love how thick this still turned out. It's an option if you like a thicker foil look, but for me, I was looking for something a little thinner. I'm going to show you another idea too. So here, this is all dry now. I'm going to add some of this Plum foil. And as I peel this off, you're going to see that it is a little bit thicker. It's not quite as authentic as I wanted it to be. Some of the spots were prettier than others. It wasn't my favorite. I still like it, and guess what? I'm going to turn this into a card, but it wasn't my favorite. So there is the results from that. But again, you know, it's an option if you're wanting a different, easier way to foil on your alcohol ink backgrounds. All right, so did you know that you can definitely add some alcohol inks to the Chameleon Sparkle paper from Maker Forte? This paper is gorgeous. It is more of a flat glitter paper. The glitter does not come off. It's nice and smooth. It works so great with alcohol inks, and I knew that I had to try to see if I could add foil to it. I already have an idea for the card that I want to make with this. I've done some cards in the past using alcohol inks on the sparkle paper. I've got to add some of the alcohol there to have that blend. But I wanted to try to see if we could add the foil. Unfortunately, this paper does accept the alcohol ink a little too quickly. It didn't leave any tacky spots for me at all. So I didn't add any foil. I was not able to add the foil, but this is an idea for you if you like that glittery look. This adds just enough sparkle and shine. I think it doesn't really even need the foil. So there's the answer for that one. Look how gorgeous this Savannah Skies die is going to look over the top of that alcohol ink background. It is amazing. In real life, I wish you could see the glitter. I wish you could. I'm going to add just a little bit more up here on the top so we've got all the alcohol ink colored glitter paper. It's going to be perfect, and then I'll cut out that die with black paper and use that as the topper. Such a pretty sky there for this card. I'll show you how that turns out at the end, but first, I can't wait any longer. I have to show you this. This is the Foiling Friday bundle that is available now. We will link this below so you can check it out, and the foil is hiding behind there. But first, look at this paper. This paper is glorious. You see all these different suns and moons and stars and lots of beautiful papers here. I cannot wait to use these on a card. This paper pack is called Cosmic, and this paper is just gorgeous. Then there also is a beautiful inside versatile card inserts. This one is called Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and these are card panels that you can put inside your cards, and they're perfect. And look at all these ones. There's Be Filled with Wonder, and there's some of each size. So the vertical and horizontal size of these, and some of these are just so clever. It's just a phase. The moon taught me that it's okay to go through phases, that no matter how many times you go down, keep rising. You are my sun, my moon, and all of my stars. Perhaps they are not stars in the sky, but rather openings where our loved ones shine down on us to let us know they are happy. You'll be the sun, I'll be the moon. Just let your light come shining through. And when the night comes, just like the moon, I'll shine the light right back to you. Some really, really beautiful sentiments. So this was probably one of my favorite versatile card inserts ever. I love it. Now there are 3 foilable simple sayings sets. This first one is called The Stars Shine For You, and it's got these great sentiments and different sizes, and then these ones that you can cut out using the simple sentiments sayings or simple sayings dies, and then of course a couple of blank canvas in the back for foiling, which is perfect. We're going to use one of those today. Then this next one is called You're My Universe. And this one you can cut out with the Shout It Out dies if you have that. You see they're larger sentiments here and some really great ones. So see those squares on the side to help you line them up to cut them out. I'll show you that in a minute as well if you haven't seen those before. Great sentiments, more blank canvas in the back of those. Here we go. Here's the Shout It Out dies. And this you just line right up with those squares, and they cut all of them out for you. Makes it so simple, so easy. I love that. And then the same with the other smaller ones is the smaller simple sayings dies. And then this last one is called Give Me a Sign, and it's got some great, beautiful images as well. And then these sentiments are also really cute. Let me read a few of those to you, like What's Your Sign? Or Moonchild. Let's see. May fortune be forever on your side. Excuse me while I wait for a sign. It's a sign. Your sign has arrived. Go for it. The stars have aligned. Things like that. I just love these. Really great for cards. Really great sentiments. And there's that die I showed you to cut all of these out as well. So that's a part of it. Then you also get these tarot cards sheets. You get 6 sheets of these, and they are perfect for foiling. You can use any color foil you want. How great would these be for journaling, for art journal, junk journaling, or for cards even, or even for a little surprise for someone? I think they would look great on a gift package as well. Then here's the foil. This is called Written in the Stars. Now look at this foil. It's like my favorite. Do you see my excitement there? I'm so excited. Look at all these things that come in the bundle. This is such a fun one. I love it. I'm going to use that foil on a couple of our cards so you can see it in use as well. I'll use it on some of the simple sayings and also for a die cut. And I'm just really excited to do that. But first I have to answer another question. And so we're going to make a panel here that looks just like a coffee spill. I thought this would be really fun. I'm looking through my swatches here to kind of see what color brown I want to use. I'm going to test out a couple of them. You'll see the first one I didn't really love, so I changed my mind and I turned over the sheet of paper and did a different one. But this is such a fun wispy look when you use this hair tool. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going for a coffee splash here. So here's how it turned out. That's the color I didn't love on the back there, so then I just turned it over and used the other side. With this one here, I kind of like how it turned out. I'm using our coffee set here with the coffee cup, and I'm going to use a darker brown for the coffee inside, and our circle dies fit perfectly in this coffee cup. One of them does. So I'm going to stamp that out, and then we'll cut out the inside of the cup and then use this brown, darker brown for the inside of the coffee. And it's kind of a fun look. I love the alcohol inks for this. It really gives a lot of movement and fun to that. I'm going to tape this down with some pixie tape and run that over to my die cut machine. There we go. I just cut out that center, and I'll save that inside for another piece. And now I'm just seeing where I want that to fall on my coffee, and I cut that out as well. And that's going to look perfect for this one. I cut the coffee cup out and colored it with some Copic markers. And now here's the question. Can you foil on some of the slick paper using some DecoFoil Duo and some stamps? So let's give it a try. I've got some DecoFoil Duo here. I've got a couple of these heart stamps from that coffee set, and we're going to just take a little bit of this out. And I've got a sponge here that I use only for the DecoFoil Duo when I'm doing this technique. And I'm going to take some of that gel and just sponge it right on to those stamps. I don't want to get too much on there, just enough so that when it dries the foil will stick, but I also don't want too little. So you want just kind of in the middle there, and then keep in mind that this paper is very slick. So I did have my stamps move just a little on me, so I'm pressing down, holding it there for just a minute so that that gel will stick down to my paper. And now this needs to dry fully before you foil it. And the reason I love using the DecoFoil Duo is you don't need to use heat. This you can just add without a laminator. And I'm using my Squid Buddy to clean off my stamps right away with some warm water. So now I had a really great idea. One morning I woke up and I thought, what if we use that DecoFoil liquid adhesive inside one of these bottles with the small applicator, the needle applicator, and we use that to add some foil on some of the panels that didn't really foil very well. Will that work? So I thought I better try that out for you today. So I put a little bit in that bottle, and I only put a little because I didn't know if it was going to work or not. I didn't know if it was going to give me what I was looking for. So I'm going to try it on this panel here that we didn't get a lot of foil, just a little bit on the side. But I realized I needed to turn that bottle upside down so that all that glue would come down to the needle point. So I held that upside down for a while before I tried this. And while that is upside down, I'm going to add the foil to our coffee cup panel. So I'm using this one here. It's called Amber Watercolor. Has some really beautiful tones to it. I'm just going to cut a small piece of one of these sheets really quick. I'm using my regular scissors instead of my foil cutter because I'm using my glass mat. I didn't want to use my foil cutter there. So I just added that down with a little bit of pressure, and I wasn't getting as great a result as I wanted. So you'll see here it was sticking, but not all of it. I was getting just kind of a mottled look. So I took this to my die cut machine and I added a piece of cardstock over the top as a shim to protect my paper. And then I ran that through my die cut machine, and look at this, I got a much better result. Now it's not perfect. You're not going to get a perfect result with this stamping technique, but it did work. And you will see that I got a little bit of smudging because the stamps moved when I put it down on this paper. So for this reason, I am going to stamp my sentiment using the MISTI. I want to make sure I just go straight down and straight up without wiggling the sentiment. So I'm going to test it out with some archival ink first. And I thought that archival ink might work on this slick paper, but I wasn't sure if it was going to smear or not. So I gave it a test run on a scrap piece of this paper. I dried it with my cool hair heat tool, not the warm heat tool. And then I let it sit for a little while and tested that out. And guess what? It worked. No smearing. It was a great impression and I loved it. So then I thought, well, I need to try it with the Stays-On ink because I thought Stays-On ink would work even better. I needed to re-ink that so I would get a really good result. So I'm just going to re-ink it really quickly, adding a little bit to the ink pad and then letting that soak in, and you can see that it really needed that. I usually re-ink my Stays-On ink pad every time I use it actually. So I put that on, pressed it down with the Misty, and it wanted to stick to my paper, of course, but I didn't get a very good result at all. So I did this 2 or 3 times, and I still didn't get as good a result as I did with the archival ink. So that really surprised me. So I'd probably stick to the archival ink for the rest of my sentiments on this type of paper and on these cards. This slick paper really does like more permanent ink though, so just be aware it needs one that's not going to smear. Now the bottle with the DecoFoil liquid adhesive is ready, so I'm just going to add some really small lines of that adhesive, and I'm following where the alcohol inks kind of have a line to them where that foil might have stuck but it didn't. I'm just adding a little bit to test it out. Now this does need to dry fully before you add the foil. So I set that aside. On the bottle it says 1 to 2 hours. These are such small lines. I think I set it aside for maybe an hour and it was perfect. It worked just fine and it was dry within that amount of time. So I'm going to set that aside to dry while we finish up this other card. See those small lines that I added? And we'll go back to this card. I just glued on that coffee cup. It says you mean a latte to me. It's got some gold foil on there. Really fun alcohol ink look. And I'll just mat that on a card. For this next card, I cut down this panel and it looks really great as the background for these Copic colored poppies. And this set I just adore. And I'm going to go ahead and white heat emboss a sentiment. Yes, I'm being brave and heat embossing on one of these panels. Now the trick to this is you want to get your heat tool nice and hot before you take it to the paper, and then you want to give it a little bit of heat and then take the heat off the panel, then add a little bit, then take it off. You don't want the panel to get too hot because it will warp this kind of paper. So one thing that was interesting to me as I was doing this, I would add a little bit there, then take it off the heat, add a little bit of heat, then take it off. I turn it over to the other side. I got a little bit of cracking in my alcohol ink. Now, not enough that you can totally see it here in this video, but you can see it a little bit in real life. And so I wasn't sure if I liked that, but you can't see it enough that I didn't want to use it on my card. So I decided to go ahead and use that. And I added these poppies right to it, and that makes for a stunning background with these really bright colored flowers. So that's another card idea for you. I've got a few more. I'm going to put together this one with the Savannah Skies. Look how gorgeous that is. Cut with Eclipse black paper, and then I'll just cut that down and I'll add that to a card base. Really, really gorgeous look for that. For this next card, I thought I'd try alcohol lift ink on these beautiful butterflies, but it was quite a bit of alcohol ink to work through in order to lift it, so that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. I left this in to share it with you so you could see if you want to do this, you really do have to work a little bit on the darker inks. So I decided to change up my strategy. If you're finding that the alcohol lift ink is not working for you, then try something different. I have here some white Stays-On ink, and that's what I'm going to do instead. And we're going to get a nice light impression that I think looks really pretty on this rainbow panel. I did stamp it a couple times with the white Stays-On to get this dreamy butterfly look. So let's turn this one into a card. I've got this beautiful berries stamp set. This one was an Alex Siberia design. I still love this one so much. And I thought it would be pretty just stamped right onto this. The alcohol ink is going to do the coloring for you. So this is going to require no coloring. I'm using the archival ink again for this, and because I know that's going to stamp nice and dark on this panel, but I'm also going to heat emboss with clear over the top. So I'll stamp this down. I stamped it a couple of times to get a nice dark impression, and then I added some clear embossing powder and heat set that. Now this ink does stay wet just a little bit longer on this slick paper, so it was very easy to heat emboss. And I did that same technique, adding a little bit of heat, removing it from the panel, adding a little heat, removing it from the panel, so that I didn't warp the paper. And I had just great luck with this one. I'm stamping the sentiment with the archival ink as well. I decided to go with a real simple sentiment. This is going to say thanks, or maybe it says thank you. Yeah, thank you. The archival ink again works really well with this stamping. Before we finish this card, I did notice that my liquid adhesive was completely dry and ready to be foiled. So I'm using this scrap piece here that I had left of the amber watercolor foil, and I'm just pressing it down over the liquid adhesive, and I was surprised because look how pretty this looks. Nice thin foils. It follows where I wanted it to on the inking. I really fell in love with this technique. If your foiling isn't working for you, this is a really great option for adding some more foil to your background. Look how pretty this is. We have some of our original foiling on there, but then I've added in those smaller lines of foiling. I think it looks really pretty. Keep in mind that this is 3D. So now back to this card. The berries were kind of dark on some of these, so I'm taking just a Q-tip, a little bit of that isopropyl alcohol, and I'm cleaning them up so you can see the berries. Now this really does lift up that ink quite a bit. It takes a lot out of there. So if you're not wanting such a harsh look, I have another idea for you in just a minute. I'm just going to keep cleaning that up, and so you can see all of those berries. But I was thinking that maybe I didn't want so much removed. And so here's the other idea. You can take your alcohol lift ink and just clean that up, making sure to turn your Q-tip so you don't change your ink pad color. But this just takes up a little bit of that ink instead of a lot like the alcohol does. So that's another idea for you. But look how pretty this is. Now you can see those berries, and I think this looks gorgeous on a card. All right, so let's use some of our brand new product with the stars. I'm going to cut some of these out using that Shout It Out die, and this is perfect. And then of course I'm going to turn on my mini Mink so that I can foil some of them up using our brand new Written in the Stars DecoFoil transfer sheet. Look at all these that you get. So many choices, and I like cutting them out, and then you can foil them in different colors. You can leave them black if you want, and so you've got lots of choices. There's lots to do here. So I'm just taking my sandwich here, which is a piece of cardstock, then my little sentiments, the foil, and it's all wrapped inside a parchment paper. I'm also taking some of that blank canvas, and I'm going to cut down the foil to fit on top of that blank canvas and run that through as well, because I have another idea for you on that. But look at how pretty this looks. Those stars in the background, they're perfect for these sentiments. Really, really beautiful. So here's the blank canvas that we did, and I'm just removing that top layer, and now this is ready to die cut. I'm going to die cut this large U with our word dies, and look how pretty that is. I love the stars on this foil. I think this is going to be so useful for a lot of applications. Since we're talking about stars and cosmic and night scenes, I absolutely could not resist making a background using some pitch black alcohol ink. And I've also got a little bit of this beautiful blue here. This is the monsoon color. I'm using the back of the Geminio paper, the side that is like a plastic paper. It's very, very smooth. I love this side for working on, especially when I'm doing the alcohol inks like this with a little foiling. I did find that I needed to add more alcohol ink than I anticipated, just like before. So I'm leaving this kind of almost real time so you can see how I'm waiting and I'm watching and I'm waiting for exactly the right moment to add the foil when it gets a little bit tacky. But eventually I do have some really great results, but look there, it was still wet on that side. So I'm just using my tool to coax it along. I'm showing you this though because I just don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to know that it is possible to add foils in a variety of ways and get good results. You just have to have a little bit of patience. So watch this. This is the Sunrise Lake. Again, it seems to be one of my favorite foils right now. I'm in love with it. It looks really great with this kind of foiling too. So look at this great result that I'm getting. Lots of different spots that I'm getting. I'm adding some more ink right there, making it a little bit tackier and having some really great results. So look at that. See all that foil? It's really fun to do this. I think it's really fun. And to just kind of see how it turns out. Alcohol ink is one of those things you just have to give up control and allow it to do its thing. And same with the foiling. You never know what you're going to get. But that is so pretty. I got a little bit extra down here, but as you know, you can always clean that up. And sometimes it's a little bit dark, so you can always cut it off. But I was able to get off most of the mistakes over here. And I am going to cut this panel down so that it fits on an A2 card. So I'm not too worried. And I wanted to show you that you can use this splatter brush with some alcohol and get some fun splotches on there to look like a night sky. So at first I'm using just a paintbrush, and then I'm going to use this brush right here to splatter those on. You can see that I just allow it a little time before I blot it up a little. And you can see some, well, I don't know if you can see it in the video. I'll hold it up later and you'll be able to see some of the results that I got. Some really great looks. You can kind of see it there, but I'll show you on this one. Let me do this one as well. And you'll be able to see it even a little bit better on this piece. So just a little bit of splotches there. Now, normally I would do this in a splat box or a cardboard box, but I was a little impatient trying to get this video done for you. Look at this though. Look how you can see more of those splotches. So fun. And isn't it interesting the colors of variation you get with that pitch black? They almost look purple here, kind of raisin colored. It would also be pretty in a mister bottle. You could put that alcohol, the isopropyl alcohol in there, but as I said, don't put the blender solution. Now I wanted to show you another technique for adding some more interest to your background, especially if you're not loving how your alcohol ink is turning out. Not only can you always die cut it or cover with die cuts, but you can take that alcohol lift ink and use it to lift up some of that ink. Now here I'm showing you what happens when you're using a sponge applicator with darker, brighter colors. Even though I'm wiping it off on my paper, I'm still turning my alcohol lift ink pad colors. So I have an option for you, a different idea, so that you don't do that. And see, but look what beautiful results I'm starting to get here. But here's the other idea. Instead of using your alcohol lift ink pad directly, take your alcohol lift ink re-inker. Put a little bit on your mat and then pick it up with your applicator and do it that way. Just a little bit will do really great for this, especially through a stencil. And then as you dab that up, you'll see that it starts getting lighter and lighter. You can add more and more layers to keep getting a lighter impression. But look at that. I think that design looks so pretty on this background. And keep in mind that it will not lift up your foil, so you'll still have that great foil result and some lift designs. While I was using this beautiful butterfly die, I realized that a couple of the pieces that come out of that die look like little moons and little stars, and so not necessarily stars, but circles that could represent stars. So I thought they would be perfect to turn into a card for this one. I'm going to foil one of these simple sayings, and don't forget that when you're using toner, you always want to dust it off with a separate brush that you have set aside just for foiling. That way your sentiment will stick really great. You'll get a really good foiling result that way when you remember to dust it off. I'm just going to create a simple card with that moon and a few stars. We'll mat that on some black Eclipse black cardstock and then put that on some paper, and that's all you need for a really fun card. The stars shine for you. Now for this U that I cut out, I'm going to pick all of those letters up at the same time using some mint tape, and then I'm going to glue them all down together. I have a piece here that I've added some of that liquid adhesive, foil adhesive to, and I added some more silver foil to this one. So we've got all the metallics on this one and a really fun alcohol ink background. And then I'm going to add this "You Are the Stars, You Are the Star of My Life." As I'm looking at this, I think you could create some really cool lightning looks with the foil on some Halloween cards too. I can't wait to try that. I'm going to add that little sentiment. I did not foil that. I just used it, cut it out of the simple sayings with the banner die. And I'm going to attach that just in black to this, using my tweezers to make sure that my fingers don't get in the way so I can see where that's going. So this is kind of a fun one with that background. Now here I just added some of this foil to an adhesive strip. I'm going to cut out this best sentiment, and that'll be the background shadow. And then I'm going to build up some best words with using the Eclipse black, and then we'll glue that to the shadow piece. So this is going to go on a really bright background, so it's really going to stand out there. I'll put an acrylic black over the top so that can really adhere down. And then I used one of the sentiments that says, "Let's have adventures under the stars." And I used that on this background where I added the adhesive pen. And I also did some lift ink flowers on the background. If you look real close, you can see them. That's part of the 4 hours I had to cut out of this video. One more idea. I know I keep saying that, but I couldn't resist. We had to add some Kaleidoscope powders. Now this is Alien Kaleidoscope powder, which is still one of my favorites. And look at what a fun design it can add to your alcohol ink backgrounds. All you have to do is add a little bit of clear sticky ink and then the Kaleidoscope powder, and then use your brush designated for Kaleidoscope powders. This is not my brush for my foils. It's a separate brush. I have a separate one for foils, so I make sure not to get any of those granules on my foil. So this is my Kaleidoscope powder brush. I keep them separated so I know which one's which. But look at that. The Kaleidoscope powder really, really looks amazing. I'm going to cut these down to panels so you can see what fun it is. Now you can set this with a setting spray. I did not have any, or I would have shown you. I do set my alcohol ink art, and I will be showing more of that on my channel if you're interested. Now for this one, I really wanted to put together a shaker card that was a full shaker. So here you can see I'm using some acetate and double-sided adhesive to tape down to the edges, and I'm going to leave the top portion open so that I can add some of those really beautiful gold stars. These are some embellishments from Maker Forte, and I love them. I use those all the time, and I can't believe I still have this much in my jar because I do use them a lot. But look how pretty they are in this star shaker. Now I'll close off the top and add my sentiment to the front, and this is the one that I foiled with the new Written in the Stars foil from Maker Forte, and I chose the one that says "Shine like the whole universe is yours." Such a pretty thought. So I'll add that with double-sided tape as well. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to add it to the middle or to the lower part of this card. I decided right there would be perfect. And then I'm just going to attach this to a card base, and that card is also done. I usually use the really strong double-sided adhesive for these kind of cards. That really keeps that together. So here's this one. And now let me show you all the cards we've made today. And look at that lifting through the stencil there. So pretty. I'm going to go ahead and tape this down because we're getting quite a glare from my lights. So I'll tape that one down, but that one has the pretty lifting and the foil in the background, some foil on the sentiment. Here's the one we did with the DecoFoil pen, and there's some of our star foil as well, using as a die cut. And here's the U word we die cut out, and then we added some of that liquid adhesive in the mini bottle to the background on that one. Here's the one with the pitch black, and then I added a simple sentiment to that one. Here's the one with the lifting, and we lifted some of that alcohol, but we stamped right over the top of our alcohol and then heat embossed it. So that makes for a really pretty card. You don't even have to color that one. Here's one we added a little bit more to the foil to this one, and I foiled that sentiment. This one we stamped on a little bit of the DecoFoil Duo to add some of that fun amber watercolor foil. And this one was the beautiful background with some of the foil and adding a Copic colored flower to the top. This one was alcohol ink over the beautiful chameleon sparkle paper. I adore that. And then look at all these we have left. So many options. There's the Kaleidoscope powder. Lots of cards I can still make, but I just wanted to give you some ideas. That's the snow flurries. And then here's more of that liquid adhesive in the small bottle. Here's the one we did all four at the same time and cut them down. So we got some great panels. This one had some great results in foiling. That's the translucent and then the silver. So many options when you're doing foiling with alcohol ink. I hope I gave you some inspiration here. I hope you got some ideas of what to use and what to try. I'd love to know what your favorites are, what your favorite colors are, what your favorite technique is, maybe your favorite papers. If you're going to try that Geminio paper, I want to hear about that too. So I'm really excited for you to give this a try. I hope I was able to answer all your questions about foiling and alcohol ink today. I have a lot more questions to answer. I'm going to be getting to them in some future Foiling Fridays as well. If you have some though that you'd like me to cover, be sure to leave a question in the link below, and I will see you next time at Foiling Friday. Bye-bye.